Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to a half deck tech, half tournament review cap. I honestly don't know what to call this video. Anyway, I'm going to be going over the deck I played to third place in the Asperia Cup yesterday, which is entirely my fault. I should have come second, just based on mistakes, and I probably should have won the tournament based on the deck I was playing, but as usual, I am awful at the game sometimes. So yeah, I made a bunch of mistakes that cost me entire series, and as a result, I came third, whereas I probably should have won the tournament. So that's a thing. Although on the flip side of that, it does mean that it's weird if you know that you lost because of a misplay, and there's nothing else you can blame apart from that mistake. Because normally you kind of just blame RNG or something, but tournaments where you just lose based on your own mistakes are both good and bad. They're bad because they kind of stick with you for ages, but they're good because it means you probably will think things through more thoroughly. But before I get onto the deck tech, I do want to talk a little bit about how the Asperia for this month was run. Now, it was double elimination, which is not the best experience when it comes to actually playing in it, because what happens is it's basically single elimination until you get to top 4. Then you have to wait a lot. I had to wait for about an hour in between my top 8 and top 4 match, which was a bit annoying. Was it top 4? No, it's like top 4 and top 3 match. Yeah, the winner bracket finals and the loser bracket finals, that was about an hour gap. So that's pretty normal as well. So double elim is not that good an experience as the player is concerned. I do prefer Swiss, but what can you do? Now, the other major change they made was the format. The format for the last, two Asperias? Yeah. Last two Asperias has been Conquest from Hearthstone. Now, they changed it to basically the Magic format, which is 60 card main deck, 15 card sideboard, and quite frankly, it was good. I thought it would be kind of a bit silly, but honestly, it was good. I did a lot of sideboarding. I felt like I didn't have a perfect sideboard. I had some numbers a bit too high, which I'll talk about, and you can kind of refer to this as a tournament deck tech. I won't be playing a game in this one. I'm going to be going more in depth with the sideboard and things like that. This is more of a, if this format becomes popular, which I think it should, because quite frankly, it was a lot of fun. And it meant that you get rewarded for being known for a deck. And something I really like about these kinds of formats is that it rewards you for playing something you're comfortable with, as opposed to playing what you think is the best deck. So I chose Mono Green Never because even if there is a better deck, like there are some Mono Red Zash variants which I think might be better, I've been playing Mono Green Never for a couple of weeks now, which means I'm very comfortable with the deck. I'm still making mistakes, obviously, but I'm playing it better than most people will, so as a result, if I play this deck, I get rewarded for it. That's what I love about these kinds of things. It rewards experience with the deck, and it rewards playing what you're comfortable with, and that's why I like these kinds of formats. Besides that, the top 3 were Pedro, Perhelion, and me, in that order. Pedro won with Wisdom Dominion. Then me and Perhelion were playing Advanced Never. No surprise, that's what we've been playing on ladder. I should have beaten Perhelion. I had lethal, and I played around 2 tricks, whereas I should have only played around 1, and I lost because of it. So we were both playing Never variants. He was playing Corruption Never, which I have expressed in the past I think is worse than normal Never, but that's neither here nor there. I was playing Mono Green, as we'll go over in a bit, and the reason why Wisdom Dominion won the tournament was twofold. Blood-Seeking Mutant to kill all the green decks, and not enough Mono Red Zash. The only Zash decks I ran into were Red-Blue, and as a result, I think they were weaker than the normal Mono Red versions. They were less consistent, and I won lots of games against Red-Blue, which I probably shouldn't have won, just based on them having consistency issues. Basically, you add Library Guards to your deck, but Library Guards is bad against Never, and you add just Gnomes, but you can side in Gnomes, so I feel like if you're going to play red-blue, you should probably be focusing more on just playing 4 library guards and then maybe siding in some gnomes or something. I don't know, but I just think mono red is better. It's more consistent. So that's partly why Wisdom Dominion did so well. It's just mono red just wasn't there. There were no experienced players playing mono red. I think the most experienced player playing mono red was Lohapa. But yeah, none of the experienced players were playing. Oh god damn it! That's even a connection loss. That isn't even an inactivity thing. That's a connection loss to the server. That hasn't happened before. Anyway, none of the experienced players were playing mono red, and I feel like that skewed the results quite a bit on this tournament. The 2 advanced Neva in top 3 looks kind of suspicious. It was the only 2 advanced Neva players in the entire tournament, as far as I know. However, both of us have been competing for rank 1 for a couple of days on ladder, so kind of take that for what you will. Besides that, a couple of my teammates, Rajan ran some weird Angels deck that didn't go very well, but Rajan runs whatever the hell he wants to, and it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Senelion ran Wisdom Dominion, and really? Okay, I think the servers are collapsing. That's not good. Let's see if we can get this resolved, because I really don't want to reconnect continuously. But Senelion was playing Wisdom Dominion, and he apparently did not have much fun playing Wisdom Dominion. So I got a message at some point saying, I wish I lost earlier. He came 4th with Wisdom Dominion. So we had top 4 was 2 Wisdom Dominion, 2 Advanced Nevo, but 4 different types. We had Basic Darius, 1. Then we had Advanced Espina was Senelion's deck, and then the 2 Nevo decks were different. So the tournament, I think itself was actually had a couple technical issues with the main stream. So I had my normal stream going, and as usual, it was the busiest time of the month. We got 40 people watching. But Fuzz and Bolter had a casting stream going on, which was very, very cool. It did have a couple technical issues though with connections, so it didn't get as many views as it probably should have, just due to connection issues, which it happens. It's the kind of stuff which you think you've tested for, but you actually haven't, so it just kind of happens. But besides that, the tournament did run fairly smoothly. We didn't have any bracket issues. We did have a problem where a lot of people just didn't sign in. So we had 15 or 16 people signed up and 9 took part, which was weird. A lot of people just didn't sign in. So that was pretty much the only issue we had. But I liked the format. I think the format was good. I would like to see Swiss, not double elimination, but what can you do? It just slows down the tournament a bit, double elim. But besides that, I think the tournament was definitely a lot more enjoyable this time. Conquest is a bit of a nightmare when it comes to filling in deck lists, and it's also just very random when it comes to a deck when it comes to a game like this. So I'm happy that they're trying this out, and I think it was actually a very, very good format. Anyway, so there's my 8 minutes of talking about Asperia. Let's get on to the actual deck tech. So this is my updated mono green Neva deck that I've been playing on ladder. I got rank 1 with it yesterday. I'm now rank 2 because Perhelion panicked and ranked a bunch. But yeah, I did get to rank 1 with this. It's currently about 90% on ladder, and no, I'm not joking. I've lost 3 games with this on ladder total. And I think I've played like 30 games with it or something crazy. It may actually be 90% exactly. But it's a ridiculous win rate. It is an absolutely ridiculous win rate. And it's one of the reasons I'm playing mono green is it's very consistent. So this particular version, it's got some standard stuff, like, you know, Elf Warriors, 2 Unicorns is fairly normal right now since there's a couple artifacts running around. The main strength of mono green is being able to run Ancient Treant, Fae of Charm in high numbers without losing consistency. And Ancient Treant especially is utterly brutal in the current metagame. It destroys Advanced Zash, and it's very hard to deal with. So many stats for 1 mana, draw a card later on. It's an utterly brutal card. Then you've got Fae of Charm that helps deal with Phoenixes as well. A lot of people think that Neva is very bad against Zash. I think mono green Neva is actually favored against Zash if you play it correctly. And some of my sideboarding options for the tournament were helping with that matchup as well. Something else is I think that most advanced Neva players would sideboard incorrectly against Rage. And that's something which I'll talk about when I get to the sideboard. But yeah, Fae of Charm is one of those very, very powerful things that lets you push damage. You just get late game references with Swift creature and then 2 Fave Charms. You can just hit him in the face for 10 with his own creatures, and it really helps. And it's just one of the more powerful finishers in the entire deck, because you can get it for 1 mana. Now, besides that, we've got still Haldir Rider, Elf Commander. These are fairly standard. 3 Nienna, not 2. I think Nienna is essential, and I actually want to draw 2 per game, and against a lot of color combos like red. If you get this with one of the tech cards I'm running, Word of Vigor, against red, you basically win, because it's a 1/4 that they have to 2-for-1 themselves, and it draws cards, and it's horrible. They can't even zash it off the board. And so Nienna is just amazing. It also auto-wins against corruption decks. It's very good in the mirror. It's very good pretty much everywhere. It's one of the best cards in the deck. That's why you run so many elves. Also helps with Divine Offerings and Neva's ability. Now, as for the early game, we've got 4 Elf Scout. Now, 4 Elf Scout is something which I've warmed up to a lot recently. It just seems to be very good, especially against red, and red is everywhere. You can go Elf Scout turn 1 and Elven Sanctuary on turn 2 and play another Elf Scout, and then you just kill his 1-drop and have 2 1/1s for free, basically. And it's just an amazing attacker as well. Helps a lot with jump blocking, and also allows you to get aggressive openings, which is necessary sometimes. Then we've got Elf Warrior, is the standard 2-drop, very, very powerful. You get it for 1 mana later, 2/2 with 3 speed. Same body as Unicorn, but it's an elf as well, which makes it very, very good. Summoner Druid just accelerates your Reverence turns. It also allows you to go Summoner Druid, Elf Warrior on turn 2, and then on turn 3 or 4 you can ramp out Elf Commander or Haldir Rider. If you have a Elf Scout, you actually gain 1 mana out of that. It's something that this actually happened in one of the tournament games, I think. I went Summoner Druid, Elf Warrior on turn 2, and on turn 3, this was going second, second level, Elf Scout, Spark, Reduced, Haldir Rider. And this was turn 3. Needless to say, I won that game, but yeah, turn 3 Haldiri is definitely a thing, and it doesn't happen that often, but when it does, it really breaks someone's back. You can also use it to accelerate out Elf Commanders with other threats in the same turn. It's just a very, very good card overall. I do side it out in a lot of matchups, but it's a generally powerful card. 3 Sharpshooter, 4 is too much, but 3 is very useful. It lets you deal with red. It's also good against Force Mage Protectors. If you get multiple, it's bad. If you only have 1, that's weird. But in general, it just lets you trade efficiently. It's also quite hard to block. It can be a swifted threat later on, but it's also hard to block. You can give it unblockability, and you can't block it with anything with 2 life or less, because it will just die. So Sharpshooter is an all-star in some matchups, and I had one on the sideboard just to increase that number up to 4 in some matchups. So, I moved past it, but we'll come back to it. Word of Vigor. Now, Word of Vigor is my tech card that a lot of people don't run. I run 3. It's astonishingly powerful. It will single-handedly win games against red. Against Dominion, you put Word of Vigor on Elf Warriors, and they become basically unkillable. They can't deal with 3/3s with 3 speed. And it's so powerful. It also cycles, and when you're referencing later, you get it on 3 creatures, and it's so much value. It's basically the universally powerful pump spell for this kind of deck. I only have 5 spells as a general point in these kinds of decks, and Word of Vigor cycles, meaning you don't lose consistency on the fact that it's a spell. It's just an amazing pump spell, and is really underrated in a lot of these builds. I think it's absolutely essential. One of the boons to running mono green, besides the consistency boost, is that you get 2 activations on Word of Vigor early game, and you get 3 mid to late game, whereas every other version gets 1 early game and 2 mid to late game. That's a big shift, and it means that in the mirror match, you get to absolutely destroy people. Like, when I played against Perhelion, I had I lost the second game, I think. Was it the second game? Yeah, I lost 1 game to a Mist Divine Offering, and then he just discarded my hand. But the other 2 games, I was rolling over him, and the only reason I lost was because I miscounted. Quite badly, in fact. I made a really bad miscount, and I should have had lethal on that turn. And Word of Vigor just rolled over him, because you can't Noxious Fumes Elf Warriors if they're 3/3s. And they just let you trade up. It's an utterly disgusting card, and it's one of the best cards in the deck, and people just don't play it. It's really good. Give it a try if you're playing this kind of deck. The other 2 spells in the deck are Tornado Outbreaks. I actually sided these out a lot. Tornado Outbreak is just supposed to be a cheap response to anything at instant speed, which is useful. You can't run more because that would dilute your deck with spells. And I actually ran a creature version of this, the Storm Fairy, in my sideboard because I wanted to side in other spells, and I can't have 7 or 8 spells in my deck. But I like having the bounce effect. They're really, really handy, and it just lets you do rather disgusting plays like bouncing his Phoenix over and over and over again. Like, I have done this to people where they play Phoenix, I bounce it, and then go Reverence, Treant, and then they can't replay their Phoenix, and it's absolutely brutal. And it's one of the reasons why this deck, instead of being bad against red, actually turns out to be a favorite matchup, is because of this kind of shenanigans that you can fit into your deck. So that's the main base of the deck. Now in terms of shrine counts, 20 shrines because you don't want to flood. It is a bit sketchy, but it doesn't screw you over too much. You just have to mulligan for 2 shrines instead of 1 most of the time. Unless you're going second, then you can get away with 1. It also depends on the strength of your hand. Mulliganing with this deck is actually surprisingly difficult. Now, the Elven Sanctuaries, I actually found out that I sided in a 3rd Sanctuary in every single game. So I may just go up to 3 Sanctuary normal. Because I just noticed this, that I was siding in Elven Sanctuary in every matchup. And I was thinking, why is this not a 3 of anyway? So I think I might bump this up to 3 Elvens. Because they just seem to be good in every matchup. They just let you trade up with really, really small creatures, and they're really disgusting against aggro. They let you be aggressive as well. They just seem to be good everywhere. So I think I might put in the 3rd one permanently, since I just sided 1 in every single game. Now in terms of the sideboard, we had 15 sideboard. So first things first, the Elven Sanctuary. Yeah, I talked about this already. Elven Sanctuary in the board, that probably should have been the main deck. Besides that, a couple upgrades to 4-ofs, 4 Sharpshooter for red, 4 Fey of Charm for mostly things like Bloodseeking Mutant, which is brutal. Bloodseeking Mutant just destroys green on its own, and Corruption and blue, and Bloodseeking Mutant's good against everything apart from Dominion, and it's a bit silly. How, like, when I played against Pedrol in the winner bracket final, and I beat him in 1 game, and I lost the other 2 just because of Bloodseeking. I was the only card that I couldn't beat. In fact, everything else just wasn't good. Even the Cataclysms weren't useful, but Bloodseeking Mutant just destroyed me on its own, and it's kind of insane actually how good that card is against some aspects. But basically, if you're playing against Wisdom Dominion, you have to get an aggressive opening, and if you don't, you're dead. Which is weird, because before the Bloodseeking Mutant buff, it was the easiest matchup ever. You just waited and waited and waited and just kept throwing threats at him until he ran out of Cataclysms and he died. But now with Mutant, it's actually a hard matchup, so that kind of switched very fast. As I said, there weren't very many red decks, so Wisdom Dominion just kind of rolled through things. So Fey of Charm is for things like Phoenixes. I actually don't side in the 4th Fey of Charm against red. I've got other sides in I want to put in there. Besides that, 2 Unicorns for any stupid Chalice decks. 2 Enchanted Springs for any stupid Chalice decks. Yeah, I devoted 4 sideboard slots to Chalice decks because I do not want to lose to a Chalice deck ever. And it's one of those matchups where you put 4 cards in your sideboard and then you can't lose to them ever. So I thought that'd be fine. Also, Enchanted Spring isn't even that bad in the main board if you want to play it. I have played Enchanted Spring before. I just removed them from the deck. They weren't too useful. But maybe I could cut down on this a bit and just cut the Enchanted Springs and just have the 4 Unicorns access to and fill in some of the rest of my sideboard. 2 Storm Fairies, already talked about this. These are to replace Tornado Outbreak when I side in spells. They were actually fairly useful. I sided them in against Wisdom Dominion, and they were very, very useful. I almost beat. It was an incredibly close game, for anyone who didn't see that. The actual stream was a ridiculously close game. It was game 3 of the winner bracket final between me and Pedrol. It literally came down to the fact that he drew his 4th Assassinate. If he hadn't drawn the 4th Assassinate, I would have killed him. But he did, and he assassinated my Elf Commander and then blocked my Sharpshooter, and then I lost. But the Storm Fairies let me almost beat 2 Bloodseeking Mutants, because I just kept bouncing them. I sided in Landslides and Storm Fairies to account for the spells and ambushing ambush strikes, and then I almost beat 2 Mutants, which is ludicrous. You should not be able to beat 2 Mutants with a normal deck. That's mono green, but I did have Storm Fairies, which let me bounce them and also get a 2/2. They also worked with Reverence. Ambush Strike also helped a lot in a lot of different areas. They just let you be aggressive, so I sided them in against red. This is what I meant when I said people side incorrectly against red. When you're siding against red, you want to be as aggro as possible. Just be flat out aggro. Get in 4 sharpshooters, 2 ambush strikes, take out the tornado outbreaks, put in some landslides maybe, Elven Sanctuary, just go full aggro. And it's the kind of thing where if I had to redo this, I think I would actually cut the landslides down to 3, put in 3 ambush strikes, and then get rid of the enchant springs. And probably put in something else, but landslide was good, I just never needed 4. I don't even know what I would put in 4/4. I think 4/4. I think I'd put in 3 maximum at any point. So I don't even know why I had 4 on the board. But yeah, 3 is pretty much the maximum amount of landslides you should be playing. They're very, very handy in a lot of different matchups. Wisdom Dominion, Rage, Angels, anything artifact based, things like that. They're just very useful in a lot of different situations, but don't play 4. That's what you can take away from this. Ambush Strike won me a lot of games and was ludicrously powerful. I sided it in a lot of different matchups. I sided it in quite a few. Against Neva, it depends on the version. You don't want Tornado Outbreak against Neva, so that's a thing. Ambush Strike can be useful. Tornado Outbreak is only really useful to prevent lethal strikes, which is not that handy. It only comes up in 1 every 4 or 5 Neva mirrors, is when you're just racing. So you side out Tornado Outbreaks and leave in probably Ambush Strikes or things like Word of Vigor is amazing. I may have actually put a 4th Word of Vigor in the sideboard. I think that was something I underestimated a bit, was how powerful that card was going to be in some matchups. But yeah, besides that, that's the sideboard. Take it for what you will. I think if I had to edit this, I'd take out the Enchant Springs, put in 3 Ambush Strikes and a 4th Word of Vigor, and then probably go down to 3 Landslide and well, I mean, I put the Elven Sanctuary in the main deck and take that out. Go down to 3 Landslide. Besides that, there aren't really that many things you can sideboard in terms of green. Like, this is something I actually encountered, that green doesn't have that many sideboard options. I mean, there really aren't that many. Sun Chasers, maybe? Sun Chasers are quite powerful against red, if you just want to really power through them. I don't think it's necessary, but maybe try some Sun Chasers in the board. Maybe some extra Tornado Outbreaks. Although I did find out Tornado Outbreak was a good first game card, but I usually sided it out. Maybe Death Traps against actually, maybe Death Traps against Wisdom Dominion. That's not a bad idea. Maybe that's worth it. I think putting 3 Death Traps in the board and siding them in against Wisdom Dominion, because then you can just play them before they could play Mutant, and that's actually a counter to that card. Maybe that's a decent idea. Maybe try siding into Death Traps. They're also really heavy beaters if they can't play a creature. So I think maybe side in... I think I'd probably put in 3 Death Traps. So 3 Landslide, get rid of the Shrines, put in a Word of Vigor, probably 3 Death Traps. Go from there. Yeah. Anyway, this was a bit experimental. Because it was the first sideboard tournament I played in Spellweaver, and everyone's played in Spellweaver. So in terms of sideboarding, it wasn't tested enough, and probably could have been better. The main deck itself, as I said, the only thing I think I'd change is the Elven Sanctuary count. But in terms of sideboard, I think there's lots of stuff to change. Now, I'm hoping the next Asperia is a sideboard tournament, because I thought it was a lot better. It was a lot more skill testing and required you to be familiar with the format and the metagame and your own deck, which are 3 things that should normally happen, whereas Conquest kind of let you skip around a bit, especially since you could ban decks as opposed to just sideboarding to beat them. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this is much, much better than Conquest, having played it. I was a bit skeptical at first. Like I said, well, we should try it anyway, but having played it, I think it's a really good format, and they should probably stick to it. Anyway, thank you for watching my incredibly long deck tech compared to normal. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback or want to ask me any questions regarding tournaments or this particular deck, put it in the comment section below. I will put the link on mom cards to the deck, and in the description of that deck has the sideboard, so it's all there. I'll put that in the description of this video, so go check that out. But as now, I'm Jotto, signing off.